Hello everyone. Welcome to Uneasy Tales, where you can listen scary stories. This video is the send part of the haunting of abandoned mansion. So, let's start. The paranormal investigators had heard the rumors about the abandoned mansion and were eager to explore it. As they entered the mansion, they were immediately met with an uneasy feeling. The air was thick with an eerie silence, and the mansion was pitch black. The only light source came from the flashlights the investigators carried. As they made their way through the mansion, strange things started to happen. Doors would slam shut on their own, and they would hear strange whispers in the dark. They tried to brush it off as their imagination, but they soon realized that they were not alone. The investigators were a group of 4, each with their own specialties. There was Sarah, the psychic medium who could sense and communicate with spirits. There was John, the historian who had studied the history of the mansion and the surrounding area. Then there was Jack, the tech expert who had all the latest gadgets to detect paranormal activity. Lastly, there was Emily, the skeptic who didn't believe in ghosts but had agreed to come along for the experience. As they explored the mansion, Sarah started to sense a dark presence. She could feel the weight of the energy bearing down on them. John pulled out his notebook and started to recount the history of the mansion. He told them about the man who had lived in the mansion, his obsession with the occult, and his dealings with the demon. The man had made a deal with the demon for eternal life, and in exchange, the demon had promised him human sacrifices. As they made their way to the basement, Jack's equipment started to go haywire. He had brought with him an EMF meter, a thermal camera, and a voice recorder. All 3 of his gadgets started to beep, flash and record without warning. Suddenly, the group heard a faint sound. It sounded like a young girl crying. They followed the sound, and it led them to an old wooden chest. As they opened the chest, they were met with the sight of an old, tattered journal. The journal contained the diary entries of the man who had once lived in the mansion. The journal was filled with gruesome details of the man's experiments on humans. He had even experimented on his own family members, and the demon had taken over their bodies. As the group read through the journal, they realized that they had been lured into the mansion by the demon. The demon had been waiting for new victims, and they had unknowingly offered themselves as sacrifices. Suddenly, the lights went out, and they were plunged into complete darkness. They could hear the demon's laughter, and they knew that they were in grave danger. Sarah started to sense the presence of the demon. It was a powerful entity, and she knew that it was angry. Suddenly, Emily started to scream. She was being dragged away by an invisible force. John and Jack tried to grab her, but it was too late. She was gone. The group was left with no other option but to flee the mansion. As they ran, they could feel the demon's breath on their necks. They could hear its footsteps behind them, and they knew that they were not going to make it. They finally reached the entrance, and they could see the light at the end of the tunnel. However, as they stepped outside, they were met with the sight of an old woman. The woman had a twisted smile on her face, and she was holding a candle. The woman was the demon's servant, and she had been waiting for them. She invited them to come back into the mansion, promising them eternal life. The group was terrified, but Sarah knew what to do. She took out a vial of holy water and splashed it on the woman. The woman let out a piercing scream, and she disappeared into thin air.